I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're exploring the transformative benefits of fermented foods with Elisabeth Fekonia. She has written a wonderful book, a book you'll want to pick up for sure. It's called Ferment Your Way to Good Health. This fascinating guide shows readers how to improve their health through simple, homemade, fermented recipes, from sourdough to vinegar and beyond. With 30 years of hands-on experience, the author breaks down the science of fermentation and its profound effects on our well-being. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Prime 7 Media for helping us put her in the spotlight today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. Elisabeth, good to see you here today on Spotlight. Thank you for joining me.
It's great to be here.
This is a great book. I've been hearing a lot for a long time about how healthy fermented foods are for you, but I haven't really found the definitive guide on it until I discovered your book. It's wonderful. Tell us a little bit about the inspiration for it.
Well, the inspiration started 30 years ago for me when I was handed over two books on fermentation, and it just opened my eyes to a whole new world.
What is it about fermented foods that make them healthy for us?
Okay, now it has become a huge trend, especially in the first world, where people are starting to realize that we have a microbiome, we have gut health that we need to take notice of. And when we eat fermented food, especially all those wonderful lactic bacteria, they give us the gut flora that we need and it builds up our immune system. And we can get that through foods, but mostly foods that we have to make ourselves. You can't really buy too much in the way of fermented food.
Fermenting food myself is something I know nothing about. I mean, I'll pick up a jar of kimchi or something at the supermarket, but that's the extent of it. How do you go about fermenting foods?
It's incredibly simple,
Mhm.
and the book I've written is aimed at the beginner. So I did basic explanations on how and why, and then the recipes are very simple and succinct. I've had a lot of positive feedback from people over the last few years since I published my book, and they said it's just easy to follow. And it's just everyday vegetables and fruits and beans and grains, all the food groups we can make simple ferments with and really enjoy them too. People are surprised at how well they taste. I teach this in my classes every week for the past 20 years now.
Wow,
And
that's
so many
wonderful.
people, yes, they've been introduced to fermented foods and they really enjoy them when we give them the little sample plates in the class.
Give us an example of some of the recipes that you really like, others really like, that are relatively easy to make.
Well, relative easy, mostly easy. And one of the very favorite ones that I teach through my classes is a fermented bean pate. And so it's
Mhm.
just made from cans of beans. And special ingredient is the spices that I add to it. So I've got special spice blends that really hit the note. And you don't need much of it. And it just brings out all the flavor. And when I pass the bean mix through the class, people smell it and they go, "Oh, really?" They're very pleasantly surprised.
Well,
And it's just so simple to make. Yeah.
eat that with fresh vegetables or whatever you want.
Yes, I've actually grown cabbages in my garden. We've just passed the winter season here in Australia, so we have all our brassicas. And so I harvested my cabbages and made the most amazing sauerkraut. You can't
Great.
beat it. If you buy cabbage, yes, it's okay, but when you grow your own and make your own sauerkraut, wow.
Really living and doing really good things for your body as well. So how do you
Exactly.
how do you actually ferment foods? Are they put in spices and boiled and then aged? Tell
Oh
us
no
exactly.
boiling, no boiling.
No
No
boiling.
no.
Okay.
It's kind of tastes a bit like nearly cooked food when the fermentation has really done its job because
Mm.
it breaks down all the fibers and the structures of the food. Fermentation is a breaking down process. I tell my people sometimes it's a bit like the first step towards making compost. They
Yeah,
all laugh,
okay,
of course.
gotcha.
But it's not making compost, of course, but it's
Right.
just getting all those microbes going and breaking down the structure of the food. And then more vitamins are made available through that fermentation. And you get a lot more nutrients out of fermented foods than you do if it's just raw or even less when it's cooked. So there's huge benefits and it's very easy to do. Anyone can do it.
Thawing part of the process is also you have to put it in a jar or a sealed
Yes.
container.
Okay. I'll explain the sourdough and the sauerkraut making process. You take the outside leaves off the cabbage and cut it in half, cut the stalk out, and then shred it as fine as you can. I actually use a deli slicer for that because I make it in bulk. And so set it on the fine setting, you get nice thin shreds, put it into a big bowl, toss in a bit of salt, not too much, and maybe some caraway seeds, and then just toss it through and come back a few hours later, and it's all weeping and watery. Just do a little bit of a bit of agitation, rub it a bit, and then stuck it into the jars, push it down as tight as you can, and sit it on the bench to ferment. That's it.
Wonderful. How
Anyone
long
can
does
do
it?
this.
Sounds great. You're making me hungry. I want a big hot dog with lots of sauerkraut. Although the hot dog's not good for me. I'll just have the sauerkraut.
Yeah.
How
Oh,
long
there's
do
many ways you can enjoy sauerkraut.
Oh yeah, put it on
And me,
sandwiches, eggs, anything, right?
no, this is true. Yeah, I have it on my morning toast in between cheeses and egg on top. It just
Yeah,
kind of gives it that little bit of acidity to
sure.
yeah, to really enjoy it. But I'm Dutch originally, and I grew up with mashed potato and sauerkraut mixed through it.
Well, that
And
sounds
then we have
delicious too.
And then we have a big pile onto our plates, and we shape it into a volcano with a little well in the top, and that's where the meatball goes and the gravy, and that was dinner.
Oh, that sounds terrific. I think you're going to have to put that recipe in one of your books eventually too, because that sounds terrific without a doubt. Also good for you is sourdough bread, right? And that you're actually letting the dough ferment before you bake it. Is that what it is?
Absolutely. I've been doing that for nearly 30 years as well. And I don't eat anything else except sourdough. In fact, I don't even eat commercial bread. You want to read the labels, it's disgusting what they put in bread. And I heard American bread's even worse than our Australian bread. But with sourdough, you just get a good plain flour, wholemeal or white, and allow it to ferment properly until it's all bubbling and alive. And then you add a little bit of extra flour the next day to knead it into a dough and rise it again and bake. It's so simple.
Wonderful. Well, I love sourdough bread, so for sure I'm going to have to try to make that. And you're right. If you buy commercially processed foods, it's loaded with stuff that's no good for you, loaded for stuff you don't want in your body. Even the packaging can be dangerous
Yeah,
for you. You know, the plastic
that's
it's
right.
wrapped in or the wax carton. So if you could do what you're doing, grow your own, bake your own, you're beyond a much healthier routine than most people. Tell us a little bit about the classes you teach. You talked about teach classes before.
Yeah, so once a week, I teach a class somewhere. I'm a mobile permaculture teacher. I
Hmm?
teach home food production, but my main source of income has been teaching cheese making, sourdough bread, and fermentation. And so, usually just one day a week, Saturday or a Sunday, I hire a hall. And I've got a marketing manager. She does the marketing for me on Facebook. And most workshops are fully booked out every week.
Wonderful. I can see why, because your recipes look and sound delicious, and you really know your stuff. What is permaculture, by the way?
Well, the word permaculture means permanent agriculture. It was
Ah,
devised by Bill Mollison. A lot of people know of Bill Mollison,
mhm.
and it's really grown from there. It's actually very strong in Africa, especially East Africa. And it's all about growing your own, being self-sustainable, um, community, and it goes right down to globally. So the three ethics are earth care, people care, and fair share. So it's all about sustainable living and being as self-reliant as possible.
Wonderful. And you really don't even need a lot of property to be self-reliant on your own food. I mean, I see people on their rooftops with little patches where they have every kind of vegetable you can imagine. So if you get creative, you can grow what you need for yourself and your family pretty easily, right?
Absolutely. Anyone, anywhere can do it, even if you just have a small kitchen. Um, Gardening on the rooftop is a little bit extreme. I
New
don't
York
think
City, you
everybody
have
can
to
do
do
that,
that.
but I know it's done. Yes.
Not too many farms back here, you know?
Rooftop farming, yeah.
Yeah.
But look, there's a lot you can do in your own kitchen, and it's a matter of having available space, really. And it can start with growing sprouts in a jar, growing some herbs in pots, and fermenting your food. You know,
Wonderful.
that's a
Wonderful.
great start. Yeah.
It's a great start. And picking up your book is a terrific start because it'll give you great recipes, great information, great insight into the process of fermentation. Before we leave you today, let me just ask you, what do you hope folks at home who pick up your book get from your book?
Inspiration
Mhm.
and think, oh, I might give that a try. That looks easy enough. And one of my simplest recipe is fermented tomato sauce.
Wow,
Yeah.
sounds good.
Now, I've just got to mention one thing. We need a starter, but starters can be found in many places. And sauerkraut juice can be a starter.
Mm.
Something to get the ball rolling, to introduce some of those bacteria into a new food situation. And over time, that will grow and break down whatever needs to be broken down and create all these wonderful bacteria and yeasts and whatever else is in there. It's diversity in our gut. That's what we need.
Wonderful, wonderful. And if you want as much energy, vitality, good health as Elisabeth has, it's 5:30 in the morning. She's in Australia right now, and you would think it was noontime because she's just bundled with energy, and that's just terrific. And I think it's from that great diet that she has. And she shares the secrets with you in her wonderful book. It's called Ferment Your Way to Good Health. It is a fascinating guide that shows readers how to improve their health through simple, homemade fermented recipes, from sourdough to vinegar and beyond. She's got 30 years experience in this field, and she breaks down the science of fermentation and the profound effects that it has on our health and our well-beings, on our bodies as well. Elisabeth, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
It's been a real pleasure. I wish we had more time.
I wish we had more time too. You did a great job, and I appreciate your wisdom and your insight. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.